Before our studio clock strikes 10 a.m., let's portray our educational feature called Tax Solutions. Many say that tax season is over and it's time to sit back, but I disagree. To me, every day is tax day. If you don't keep up with those taxes, you end up paying lots to Uncle Sam, maybe unnecessarily. And trust me, you don't want to earn a prize for doing so. Nevertheless, I'm not a CPA, but let's get our own famous CPA, Mr. Adil Baloch from Accurate Records and Tax Services, to explain to us about tax-related identification theft. The moderator here is Attorney and Counselor at Law, Mr. Daniel J. Wright.
Good morning and welcome to Capitol Forum. My name is Daniel Wright. I'm an attorney in Rockville, Maryland. With me today is Mr. Adil Baloch. I'm very happy to have Mr. Baloch with me. He is a prominent certified public accountant and a certified tax resolution specialist with his office in Montgomery County in Montgomery Village in Gaithersburg. Adil, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Our topic this morning is tax-related identity theft. This is a growing problem in the community and something that hits a lot of people. Adil, can you tell for our viewers what are some of the warning signs that someone would need to look at if they think that they might have been a victim of identity theft?
Sure. Before we actually get to the warning signs, let me just say, so in this case, when it comes to tax-related ID theft, prevention is definitely better than the cure.
Oh, yeah.
Because the pros and cons, when you look at everything, it is already way too late by the time you find out what's going on. Right. Indications would be the first time ever people find out about something happened tax-related is somebody filed a tax return under their name. They have not even received their W-2s and 1099s and what have you from their employer or their clients. IRS notifies them that their tax return has already been filed. If they're lucky enough, IRS actually intercepted it. There's some protection there, so the damage was not as severe as it would have been if the tax return was actually processed and everything has been done now. Just this year, as a matter of fact, towards the end of January, I had gotten multiple calls about people receiving notices from the IRS that their tax return was actually filed pretty much beginning of the year. W-2s and 1099s, the deadline is not until the end of January. January 31st is when the employers start sending these out to their employees, and they don't even send these documents to the IRS until the end of February. That's the deadline. When somebody jumps in and files a tax return in the beginning, obviously IRS has not received anything from the employer. The employee has not received anything from the employer. Everything is pretty much up in the air. Nobody knows what's going on. That's when they think these people involved in fraudulent activities, they feel that this is probably the best time to actually commit that.
I see.
And so when the IRS gets back to you and tells you that your tax return has been filed, if the IRS never found out about it, your refund was intercepted for unpaid taxes from a prior year you have no knowledge of, and a year when you did not file the tax return, somebody else filed and maybe you owe taxes based on the tax return or what have you. Those are the only times when you actually find out about what has happened. And in most cases, it's already too late. So you can never be more careful just to avoid the whole thing from happening, as opposed to getting to a point where you are finding out proactively about something that shouldn't have happened to begin with.
Does the IRS ever notify someone before they file that they suspect a problem?
So what happens is that, for example, this year, yes, to answer your question, in some cases, yes. So this year what happened was that every single one of us who files a tax return electronically e-files it with the IRS, we all have a PIN number assigned to us that matches with our names and our social security numbers, and so those are unique PIN numbers that either we ourselves create or we ask our tax professional to create those for us.
Right.
So they are unique because that's a combination between your social security number and the PIN number, so it is unique. In some cases where the IRS suspected that there's going to be an identity theft in some cases, the IRS actually provided, and the PIN numbers that, regular PIN numbers that everybody uses are 5-digit. The IRS provided to some taxpayers, they provided 6-digit PIN numbers.
I see.
That are pretty much behind the scenes, not as visible as the 5-digit PIN number. So these people who were more exposed or more prone to being hacked again, they were taken out and put in a separate database with, as far as their PIN numbers go.
I see.
This year, about a few weeks ago, the database where the IRS had those 6-digit PIN numbers, that database got hacked.
Oh no.
So it is really sad, and it's just, you know, all we can do is just feel sorry for the people who are victims of these. But there's things that you can actually do.
What are some of the steps you can take in order to avoid becoming a victim?
Well, I mean, it's actually, you know, if you think about it, it's much simpler than you know, someone might think. It's simple things. You know, make sure that you protect your social security number as much as possible, your personal information. Do not, obviously, things that are confidential, they should stay confidential. Somebody knowing how much money you make and what your social security number is already know way more than they should.
Right.
Going beyond that, sharing that kind of information, regardless of how comfortable you are with whoever, sharing those kind of things, once you're putting that information out, obviously it's not secure anymore. We get these links and emails and all these things in our inboxes on our computers all the time. If you are not sure about where that link is coming from, just do not click on it. If it says it's the IRS and that's your tax bill, no, it's absolutely, because the IRS is not going to send you an email.
Is the identity theft normally involving just stolen social security number, or are there other ways as well?
Well, not necessarily. It could be other ways as well. So if you go to the Federal Trade Commission's website, they recommend a few things as it relates to the identity theft. It not only covers the tax related, but it covers overall identity theft. So what happens is tax return could be just one part of it.
I see.
It could be people applying for credit cards under your name. People could be working for somebody else under your name. I have seen people whose tax return was filed from Indiana, and they live in Germantown, Maryland. They had an employer in Indiana all year long. They qualified for a refund. They even qualified for an earned income credit. Someone got a whole bunch of money in Indiana. These people had no idea what was going on. In addition to that, that was just one part of it. In addition to that, there was a car that was financed under their name. There was somebody actually tried to apply for a mortgage to buy a house, which obviously did not go through because there's a whole lot more that goes into the equation. It's not just a few pieces of ID cards. So there's a whole lot more. That's why the Federal Trade Commission, they give you phone numbers to call. They ask you to report immediately to all the credit bureaus on putting some kind of monitoring on your system. These days, in this day and age, when you can, one of the things that I use on my phone is called Credit Karma. It's absolutely free. It's an app on your smartphone. You actually download it. It's just a matter of touching that icon and putting your 4-digit PIN number to see what your credit report looks like, and it updates every 30 days. At a minimum, I would recommend that people do something like that to avoid the unfortunate, and then try to resolve something that could potentially take years before you actually come out of it.
Well, if someone files a tax return in Indiana using your social security number and gets a refund, how long would it take to straighten that out with the IRS?
See, the thing is this. It will take however long it will take. So now the problem is that how does the IRS know that you're not the person who's claiming to be the person in Indiana? Now it's your job.
You might be in cahoots.
To prove exactly. So it is now your job to prove to the IRS that this was a fraud and somebody stole your social security number, they're very cooperative when it comes to that. Behind the scenes, they probably have more knowledge than we do, but still, they have to follow the protocol. You have to do these affidavits, and you have to tell them what happened, and you have to show them the evidence that you were working there or here. But in the meantime, though, it really does not mean, when you have some kind of identity theft with your tax returns,
Yes.
it really does not mean that you shouldn't be taking care of your own tax return. Now, if you
Right.
owe money on your tax return, you better make sure to file that tax return, send the payment in. Obviously, you cannot e-file that tax return anymore. Mail it in before do not miss the deadlines, not the filing deadlines, not the payment deadlines. You still have to do all that.
What if the government owes you money, but they've already paid it to some dude in Indiana? Are they going to pay you what they owe you?
That's a good question. So here's the thing. What happens is that you essentially have two W-2s now. There was one in Indiana that
Right.
was created,
Yeah.
and there's one W-2 that is yours
Right.
that you actually worked on, and now you have the W-2s which will hopefully qualify you for a refund.
Right.
So now, when you take care of this part and you prove it to the IRS that this is not me, this is an identity theft, and there's procedures outlined as provided by the IRS. You follow those procedures.
Yeah.
You provide everything the way it is supposed to be provided, the
Okay.
affidavits and everything else that I talked about. As soon as you prove it to them that this is not you,
Yes.
this comes available, and you can actually take that, and we go from there. So these are two different. If you look at it, for a lack of a better example, you're looking at two different people altogether. This person is claiming to have your social security number, but
Right.
that really doesn't belong to them. So it's just a
Right.
matter of you explaining or proving to the IRS that that's not my social security number, so your refund. In the meantime, you may have some issues getting that refund back.
That strikes me as a very intimidating process that many people would not be able to navigate. Can an accountant help in that situation?
Hopefully, most accountants are familiar with these processes, and they know how this works. If an accountant has gone through the training that the CTRS is, I'm one of them, the Certified Tax Resolution Specialist, if you go through that training, then it's easier because they have gone through the training of understanding the process. It's easier for them to navigate somebody through the process.
It just
and
sounds like
helping them.
something that would take hours and hours and hours, and the frustration would be enormous.
Correct. So what happens is that in those cases, unfortunately, a tax preparer may have to become the therapist for a little while, trying to just counsel the person, because it's not as bad as it looks. It's just a matter of time. If you did not do anything wrong, you will eventually get out of it. But again, as far as the tax preparer are concerned, they are only dealing with your tax return part.
Right.
If something else has happened, if there's driver's licenses out there, if there's credit cards out there, if there's other things happening, now you have to deal with all these other things,
Oh, yes.
which might not be as easy as dealing with the IRS or your tax
The person's
return.
on the other side of the country. It's normally not somebody 5 miles away. It's usually
Correct.
half a continent away.
Absolutely.
Anything, any final notes or key advice that you could give to our
If
viewers?
there's one thing that I can clarify for everyone, the IRS never sends anyone any emails.
I see.
They will never send you emails and ask you to click on a link to
Right.
make a payment.
I
These
see.
are, if you see an email from the IRS right off the bat that you do not recognize, you bet that it is a social engineering. It's phishing. They're looking to plant some kind of virus on your computer. The moment you click on that, obviously you never know what they're going to ask after you click on it.
Right.
So you have to be very careful. There's one thing you can take away from this discussion. IRS does not send you emails. Do not even open them.
They don't do emails.
Correct.
Thank you, Adil, for your help. I'm sure our viewers are greatly benefited by
Thank you
your
very much.
wisdom.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.